Great art.
Thank you.
And I would love to introduce any men here that have never seen anything of any of The Chosen. We have a little treat. He agreed to talk about some very interesting parts of The Chosen, specifically 3 different parts. We'll start with one of his favorite scenes that he shot, or one of his most favorite scenes that he shot. I asked Jonathan if he'd send that over. And if you could kind of set up what these guys are about to see, we'll roll the clip and then let you kind of comment on it.
Sure. So the first one is Jesus goes back to his hometown. It's right out of Scripture. He goes back to Nazareth and he preaches in the temple. And it doesn't go so well for him. He basically identifies with the Scriptures in Isaiah as the Messiah. And the people there are like, did Jesus just say he's the Messiah? This is the kid we grew up with, like the son of the carpenter, right? The son of the carpenter is the Messiah? Whoa. And Jesus is like, no, let me continue. And he does. And they throw him out of the temple and basically drive him to a cliff where they literally are about to throw him off a cliff. And so this moment we're going to see is just after he's identified himself as the Messiah to these people and basically said, you guys need me for the salvation of your souls.
So what about that scene has made it one of your most favorite you've shot so far?
So the whole 3rd episode of season 3 is basically Jesus going home, and you're seeing him in his own environment. And I think just because of the things that are set in motion with that scene, we now know that life is not going to be any easier for Jesus or any less public or any less challenging for himself or his followers after this moment, especially in his hometown. He probably can't go home. He probably won't go home after this moment, and that's part of God's plan for him. So the rest of the scene too, you actually get to see him driven to the edge of the cliff, and it's pretty cool how we shot it. So. I think because of the implications of what happens with this scene and everything in this episode, it's as a whole, it's one of my favorite episodes.
Well, the next scene you sent to us was one that we asked for about the most impactful scene that's ever happened, the most talked about, people are most moved by, and you chose this scene with little James questioning his abilities, and there's actually a lot of meaning behind this with the actor that actually played it.
Yeah, so Jordan Ross is the actor that plays Little James in the show. Jordan in real life has a mild form of cerebral palsy and scoliosis and walks with a pronounced limp and has for, since he was born. And in fact, his whole story is that he spent many years as an actor trying to hide his limp. He would get cast in certain projects because he's a very talented actor, and then they would get there and they would, or they would ask him to do some more things in the room even before they started shooting. And they would recognize that, oh wait, the guy has a limp, and he would actually lose the job because of that. And so when he got cast as Little James, eventually got to that point where Dallas is like, oh, do you have a limp? And Jordan's like, yeah, just waiting for the other shoe to drop that he was now out of a job. And Dallas is like, okay. Could we use that in the story? And Jordan was like, wait, what? And so it became part of his character's story. And so the scene before this, Jesus has just gathered the 12 disciples together to tell them he was sending them out 2 by 2 to heal the sick, to cast out demons. And And of course now, Jordan, as little James, we've written in this his handicap or his disability or his limp. And now we're left to be faced with like, well, how does he feel about this? And so he hears in the scene just before, you see him listening to these things these abilities that they're going to have, and he's like, wait a minute, you mean I'm gonna get to heal other people, but I have this? And this is where the next scene, the scene we're about to see, is where we pick up his questions to Jesus.
Take a look. Jonathan, in your opinion, how does that scene relate to all of us in this room?
We all struggle with something in our lives, some form of weakness somewhere, some kind of trial. God can use every single one of our trials to allow us to achieve His will here on earth for us and for those around us. I think we have to remember how important it is to give thanks for the trials and the suffering, as well as the goodness and the blessings, because it's through those trials that we are made stronger in Him.
So the third scene he sent over for us, we wanted to get into his art as an artist. So we asked him, what was the absolute hardest scene to shoot? And this was a scene of the walking on water.
Yeah, we got to do that. So if you haven't seen season 3, spoiler alert. But it was incredible. Let's just look at it.
Take a look and we'll see what. So, how did you guys do that? Where were you? Was that a pond, or how did they show the foot going in the water?
Well, the context was the first most incredible thing that Thomas talks about was they had just done the feeding of the 5,000, and they were on their way back, and the storm was coming in, and then all of a sudden, so they had seen the multiplication of the fishes and the loaves, and then now they're seeing Jesus walk on water. So, and that is part of a much more profound moment in Simon Peter's storyline. So I urge you to check out season 3 if you haven't, because you won't see what's coming until you do. So we shot in a giant tank with a wave pool in Louisiana, and so all of the foam that you saw on the tops of the waves, none of that was there. The depth of field, I mean, we were in a tank that was probably maybe about half the size of this arena, footage-wise. And then we had rain machines overhead and all sorts of stuff. And then we were on platforms, these sort of like thick, I guess they're like these giant plastic platforms that were clear. Plexiglass, thank you, buddy, appreciate it. Plexi something, there it is. And then on top of the plexiglass platforms were these blue kind of foam pads that would kind of float on the top of the water when the wave pools when the waves started coming in. And so we had to kind of like surf as we were doing these scenes, standing in place, and help sort of sell the idea that we were in the middle of a sea with a raging storm. So it was, when you see, and if you go online, you can see the behind the scenes for that scene, and you would never think that what we did and what it actually looked like would translate to that. So it was nothing short of a miracle to accomplish that scene.